Just a robot.
I'm sorry, Autonomous, but I'm gonna have to cancel my collaboration with you. Because I have no way to get over there. Well, it's hard to explain.
Hey Jar, finally got that upgrade you wanted.
What upgrade are you talking about?
Something that will stop making you such a Joe.
A Joe? I don't know what you mean by that.
It's a Family Guy reference.
Hold on a second. Do you mean...
Yes.
Oh my god, yes!
Never skip leg day again.
I never will again!
Welcome back, meatbags, and with me again today is Just a Robot.
Yes! I'm just a robot, not you. I still remember the time you tried to steal my identity in that video you did with Sugar Tits.
But who cares what I say? I'm just a robot.
I'm just messing with you, Autonomous. So, what video are we covering?
Today, we tackle yet another Anita's videos, and this is probably your first time handling Anita's handiwork.
Actually, it is. I don't cover people like Milo and Anita by myself, mainly because I feel like they're too overdone. But if I'm doing a collaboration, I'm totally cool with talking about them.
Wait, Anita, weren't you supposed to finish the second season in 2016? Oh, that's just sad. But hey, you beat your record of 2 videos in 1 year.
At this rate, you'll be updating just as much as someone who makes a webcomic.
Let's just get to the video already.
Wait! Wait! You're not going alone!
And right off the bat, I'm pissed off. This clothing is optional. Optional, Anita! It's not the main clothing. Shiva actually wears appropriate attire throughout the entirety of the game. But since she has an option like this at the end of the game, oh my god, we gotta shut down fucking Capcom.
Shut it down. Shut it down. Can't speak your mind anymore.
Now, since I know you... Here's Chris's alternate costume. Oh wait, it doesn't count because he's white and he has fucking pants!
Ooh, but I sure wish he didn't.
Ubisoft's 2012 game Far Cry 3 cast players as Jason Brody, a young white American man vacationing in Bangkok
She said Bangkok.
with his brother and their white friends.
Anita, I know how much you love to point out the shit that you hate, and in this case, white men. But newsflash, no gamer cares the color, the gender, or even the sexual orientation of the protagonist in the game. In fact, in Dragon Age, you can have a gay relationship with most of the cast, even with this fucker here.
Whoa, mama. I certainly would like to date that.
However, I like the tone you are setting with this. Brothers and sister all are white. It's fucking garbage, white people.
But their carefree fun comes to an end when a skydiving trip goes wrong and they all end up being kidnapped by evil pirates who, you guessed it, are not white.
Far Cry 3 takes place in the fictional islands of Rook Islands, which is probably based off the real Rook Islands in Papua New Guinea. And if you didn't know, here's a bit of small information for you. The inhabitants are not fucking white!
Good God, Autonomous Prime, we need to cover those female nipples up. Huh, cult is actually useful for something.
Yay, I'm helpful!
Wait, are you gonna say that Voz was a pirate so he couldn't be from the islands? But in fact, yes. Yes, he is. He is a damn native to the islands. That is mostly populated by non-white people!
Jason escapes and encounters a group of island natives called the Rakyat, who enlist his help to rid their island of the pirates.
Who are also black. In fact, that guy is way darker than Voz.
Ushering Jason into his exotic and exciting new role as a tribal warrior and white savior is Citra.
Lady, he was manipulated and forced to be a warrior. And how else was he gonna save his family and friends if he gets no help at all? He has no idea what lies on the island, but the natives do, and they're fighting the pirates. However, these people are the true enemy, And later on, you find out they're actually fucked up in the head. Every last one of them on that island.
A young woman who's viewed among her people as a warrior goddess. Under her guidance, Jason's adventure rapidly becomes an absurd hodgepodge of racist stereotypes about tribal cultures and brown women.
Could you state the racial stereotypes? Because apparently you don't list them out, so I don't know which one you're talking about. Is it the drug use? Is it the clothing? Because actual African brown tribes actually do this crap in the real life. So I don't know what the racial stereotype here is.
Come on, Autonomous Prime. You know that ain't true. It's just Halloween costumes that are making you think that way. My god, didn't you take gender studies?
At one point, Citra gives Jason a hallucination-inducing drink which leads him into battle with an imagined giant. After he defeats the monster, he's rewarded with a topless Citra, telling him that he's now part of the tribe.
You are Rakyat.
1. It is known that many tribes, even Native Americans, use drugs as a means for events or for tribute. Native Americans use tobacco. Some native tribes in South America and parts of Africa chew the leaves of the cocoa plant, which is cocaine. They even use hallucinogenics like marijuana and even salvia.
Autonomous, all this talk is making me, I'll be back in a second.
So drug using is part of tribes. And 2, sexual rituals are real and are still happening, and some of them are immoral, like child's brides or genital mutilation. It's not a racial stereotype if it is continuing to this day.
Whoa. Okay, Autonomous. I'm back. What are we doing again?
Why do you think there is a drug lord there? That's probably their base of operation because there is a shit ton of drugs there.
Wait, there is? I know where I'm vacationing to next. What are we doing again?
And the means to make it, like plants. It doesn't just come out from the fucking ground. They don't use chemicals. They use the natural plants. It's probably pure.
Citra's strange mystical powers return later in the game.
She doesn't have strange mystical powers. She has drugs.
But how can mystical powers not be real if drugs aren't real?
Jar, have a Snickers. You're not you when you're high. Better?
Better. Wait, how did a Snickers bar stop me from being high?
There's something in it to help balance the chemicals in your human brain.
Well, it's a good thing you showed up when you did. This high joke was kind of getting old.
This high joke stopped being funny when you started it.
Blows a glowing dust into Jason's face.
It literally states in her wiki, she blows a natural jug in powder form in his face. So yeah, the tribe is using drugs.
Yes, but do you really expect Anita to do research? I mean, it's not like she spent months working on this video.
Triggering another hallucinatory sequence that culminates in the game-ending choice: to save Jason's friends and leave the island, or to do Citra's bidding, to savagely kill his friends and stay on the island with her.
So if this did not show you she was evil in the first place, this is how most Far Cry games are. The people you are with are just as bad as the main people you are going against. Far Cry is a lose-lose situation game here. Either get off the island filled with drugged-up crazies, or stay with the crazy woman who ends up killing you.
If players choose to murder Jason's friends and stay with Citra, a scene plays in which the two of them have sex. Then she stabs him while stating that their child will become the new leader of the tribe. I guess those mystical tribal powers of hers just immediately let her know that she's already pregnant.
I'll be yours.
Or she's drugged out of her mind. Or she's fucking crazy.
At least Anita taught me something new. When I played Far Cry 3, I actually saved my friends. I'm glad I actually got to see the alternate ending. I was too lazy to look it up.
On one hand, Citra is yet another example of a female character whose sexuality is presented as a motivator and reward for the presumed straight male player.
Holy fuck, is this wrong?
She wasn't a reward. She was a manipulative cunt and psychopath who ended up killing you at the end if you chose her over your friends. But hey, the one who tries to kill you is actually Dennis, and she jumps in the way to get stabbed to save your life. If you go with your friends, cause they're all fucked in the head.
But not as fucked in the head as you, Anita.
But there's something more insidious happening with Citra. Her body paint and magical powers suggest
She does not have mystical powers. She just has drugs and hallucinogenics. Those are nothing but war paint. Most tribes have these, even Native Americans today. You see what happens when you try to push people out of other cultures and not learn about them? You look like a stupid fucking moron, Anita.
Hey, moron! Fucking moron!
she practices some sort of tribal mysticism, which also roots her in a long-standing tradition of racist stereotypes.
How is contributing to your own culture racist? Is it because game devs did research with real natives and tribes because they must be fucking white men? Fuck off, Anita. It's now racist for native tribes to do what their culture states they should do.
These elements of sexism and racism intersect.
It's not just sexism and racism, it's intersectional sexism and racism.
Turning Citra into a stereotype of an exotic, primitive, mystical, savage, sexualized woman of color.
Anita, she was manipulative and crazy. I know you don't ever play the games because I know you don't do it. So if you actually picked the fucking controller up and played for a few hours, maybe you would have had something, but you don't because you don't play video games. We do not care about their color of their skin, their sexual orientation, the gender they have. Unless it's a good game with good story and good plot, which Far Cry 3 was far from it. It was actually a shit game. We don't care.
The only time we do care about a race in a game is if it's a made-up race, like the Argonians or Khajiits. But people like you would just complain that Nords wearing orcish armor is cultural appropriation.
This linking of sexism and racism is an example of what's called exotification. Exotification occurs when a group is treated as inherently different, alluring, and strange.
Like a lamb to the slaughter.
First off, get the Duke out of your shitty commentary, and two, that's just what happens when you go to a different part of the world. Even England has that effect. Hell, British women are considered exotic, you daft bitch.
Also, are you really using a movie from the 1950s? I noticed a lot of SJWs do this. They take a really old movie and point at it and say, look, that's representative of our culture now.
For instance, when certain white men falsely view Asian women as inherently more obedient or submissive than women from other cultures and sexually fetishize them as a result of these false notions, those women are being exotified, and their race is falsely depicted as the defining aspect of their character and personality.
America, so far away.
Okay, first off, they are not being submissive. They've been taught to be good hostess. If you actually dabbled in other people's cultures, you would have known this, Anita. And please, don't tell anyone the story how the main character was mistrusted by a majority of the Japanese people and even told to not sell him food. However, do you even know what a geisha is? They are hostess in a wide variety of skills from dancing, singing, poetry, gaming, and even highbrow conversations. It takes years to become a geisha, and they take this very seriously. And to tell you, Anita, there are even male geishas, because at WW2, they were forced by their government to go into factories, and when it was over, most went back to keep tradition and their culture alive. Anita, you are confusing traditions and cultures with your backwater think of racism.
But autonomous, don't you know? That's not what their real culture's like. That was just created by the Americans. Their real culture's actually like, well, it's like, I don't know, SJWs never explain what it is. But it has to be different from this.
Not so far away that I'll forget you.
For the purposes of this episode, we're focusing specifically on racist stereotypes of tribal and indigenous cultures.
Because God knows that's not real. They don't practice this in the real world. There's nothing like that. It's only racial stereotyping of real people.
But it's important to note that women of color from any background can be, and often are, stereotyped and exotified.
Like I stated before, even British women are fantasized about.
Even people from different states are exotified, like those hot blonde surfers from California.
Sometimes black female characters are exotified entirely through clothing that simultaneously sexualizes them while also evoking racist stereotypes.
I'm just gonna put this right here.
2009's Resident Evil 5 introduced a new character to the series, Sheva Alomar, a Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance agent who joins Chris Redfield as he confronts an outbreak of infected in a fictional region of Africa.
And she was a complete badass throughout the entire story. Can you please tell me what the problem was?
The first time you play through the game, Sheva looks like this. However, once the story has been completed, if players also collect all 30 BSAA tokens scattered throughout the levels, they unlock a new outfit for Sheva called the Tribal Costume.
So, not only is it optional, but it's a challenge to get. In other words, you have to work hard to get her in that costume. Basically, what you're saying is if you want to be sexist in a video game, you have to work hard at it.
Equipping this outfit takes Sheva, who up until this point has been wearing somewhat practical attire for the work she's doing, and shoves her into a leopard print bikini top and a few tatters of fabric around her waist, while also applying paint markings to decorate her face and body.
Anita, go to the corner. I've already told you about this. I even showed you Chris's alternate costume. They both have alternate costumes, and this is just one of them. And like I said, it was optional.
And a challenge to get.
In Hyrule Warriors, the villain Sia is one half of the spirit of the original sorceress, a noble being who watched over the balance of the Triforce. When the evil Ganondorf drives the light from the sorceress's soul, she splits into two, with her virtuous half becoming Lana, who, like the similarly righteous Link and Zelda, is fair-skinned.
You say that like it's a bad thing. Oh wait, it is. Fuck white people, right?
Well, the game was made by evil white people. Oh no, wait, it wasn't. It was made by the Japanese.
Meanwhile, her evil half becomes the darker-skinned Sia, who casts dark magic, wears an extremely sexualized outfit, and whose body is adorned with markings reminiscent of tribal body paint.
So fucking what?
So, what you're saying is, if a hero wears tribal body paint, it's bad, and if a villain wears tribal body paint, it's bad. So basically you're saying that no one can ever wear body paint, right?
These differences between Lana and Sia, two halves of the same being, directly link the color of their skin to their goodness and virtue.
People associate dark things with evil and white things with good because people are afraid of the dark, and things like sun and fire produce heat, which people need to survive. This is why this concept is so common across a variety of cultures. However, they're not saying that because someone is darker skinned, they're going to be evil. And if you think they are, I have one thing to say about that.
Citations are illegal.
Falsely suggesting that a lighter skin tone reflects a purer, more noble spirit. In reality, lighter-skinned women of color are often depicted as more desirable and more virtuous because they come closer to meeting the culturally dominant white beauty standards.
No! No! Fucking no! And furthermore, why?
This insidious notion that a darker skin tone reflects a less moral or virtuous soul is hardly new to the Zelda franchise.
Also, the second main villain in Twilight Princess was white.
In which the heroic and noble characters like Link and Zelda are fair-skinned, while the recurring villain Ganondorf is associated with the darker-skinned Gerudo people.
His skin is fucking green. That's why when he becomes Ganon, he becomes a green pig monster.
He's also a redhead. Are you going to say that Zelda perpetuates the stereotype that gingers don't have souls?
He's a ginger! He's a ginger!
In Diablo 3 there are 6, soon to be 7 classes to choose from, but only one of them is represented by black characters, the Witch Doctor.
Because most witch doctors are black.
By that same logic, wizards are a racial representation of European people. You're a racist, Harry.
Employing just about every visual stereotype about tribal warriors in the book. Elaborate piercings, skull masks and body paint, and carrying voodoo dolls and shrunken heads as items of power. The witch doctor is a caricature of tribal identity rooted in centuries-old racist imagery that has no place being perpetuated in the 21st century. And this is nothing new. Harmful, ignorant, racist stereotypes have been used in the design of supporting characters and enemies in games for decades, and often the result is female characters who are both sexualized and exotified.
Have you come to kill me?
Yeah, but so are European women and Northern women.
It's no secret that fighting games often feature sexualized female characters, and often feature characters whose design is rooted in ethnic stereotypes.
Yeah, but Street Fighter is pretty much evenly racist across the board.
Sometimes these two elements combine in sexualized, exotified female characters. In Street Fighter 4, Elena wears, well, she wears almost nothing. But the bands that she wears on her arms, legs, and neck vaguely suggest African tribal culture.
Because they do it! How are you this mind-numbingly thick-headed that you think that no tribes wear this shit anymore?
And she possesses that stereotypical character trait of a mystical connection to the earth.
Because that's their belief! Most tribes have multiple deities that have something to do with the earth itself. And did you also know she has a doctorate in a French university?
Also, almost all of the characters in Street Fighter have skills and powers that are very representative of their culture. For example, the main character Ryu can manipulate his own energy, and energy manipulation is very common in Japanese folklore.
I'll show you my dance. You ready?
All these stereotypes are anything but harmless. Here in the United States, racist images and stereotypes of black women have been doing tremendous harm for centuries.
Whoa, wait, hang on. You do realize they are basing this movie on shit that actually happened, right? How is that a racial stereotype? African women were raped by many of their owners, punished them as well. How is this racist? None of them had a fucking choice or say in the matter.
And if we didn't make movies about it, people would be complaining saying, "You're trying to cover up the white sins of your ancestors. You're trying to pretend like slavery never happened." It's another one of those doomed if you do, doomed if you don't situations.
In fact, false ideas about black women as inherently hypersexual beings were perpetuated in Southern slaveholding society. This was a time when oppressive Victorian ideas still held sway, creating a false sense of womanhood as inherently domestic, submissive, chaste, innocent, and modest.
Anita, they had no choice. Most were savagely beaten if they fought back. Some did it to survive or get a reward from their owners. That shit they did either had no choice or had to do it in order to stay alive. It was bad. And Anita, you're going off a little bit off course. You're supposed to be challenging video games, not movies here. Or did you not find enough material for this video?
Let's pretend like black women were no longer sexualized ever. Guess what? You would be complaining about that saying, "Oh, come on. Black women can be sexy too. This is just a patriarchy trying to push that white people are the beauty standard."
But the reality of black women's lives as slaves was irreconcilable with these notions. Not only were female slaves, of course, denied any and all basic rights as people, they were also often forced to be naked when on display at auctions, were regularly whipped in partial or total nudity as punishment, and were frequently sexually assaulted and raped by their owners.
Yes, Anita, that's what I've been trying to say. So how is this a racial stereotype then?
In her essential book, Sister Citizen, Melissa Harris Perry explores how myths about black women's sexuality were deliberately perpetuated by white people as a way of rationalizing their cruel and dehumanizing treatment of female slaves.
Because back then they were property. You could legally buy someone back then. There was no justification of it. They were things. So they will use them as they please. Either back-breaking work or rape them in the corner!
The myth of black women as lascivious, seductive, and insatiable was a way of reconciling the forced public exposure and commoditization of black women's bodies with the Victorian ideals of women's modesty and fragility. The idea that black women were hypersexual beings created space for white moral superiority, by justifying the brutality of Southern white men.
Anita, we know there is no justification for this mistreatment. Are you stating we are harboring these feelings towards black women? And we want to own them once again? Are you fucking out of your fucking mind?
Slavery is a pretty stupid system. Even if you take out all the moral stuff, slaves run away, they try to slit your throat at night, you have to take care of them, feed them. It's just a dumb system. It's much more practical to hire a servant. And this is why I don't think slavery will ever come back in the USA.
These false, harmful stereotypes and their tragic impact have remained alive through the centuries and into the present day. Throughout most of American history, up to and including much of the 20th century, the sexual assault and rape of black women by white men was almost never treated as a crime.
Calm down, Autonomous. Don't lose your head.
Boo, you suck!
But in all seriousness, whenever a feminist talks about rape, it's usually false.
In her book, Dark Continent of Our Bodies, historian Frances E. White says, "Virtually no legal protection was provided for women who were portrayed as loose and licentious. Under such conditions, black women, promiscuous by definition, found it nearly impossible to convince the legal establishment that men of any race should be prosecuted for sexually assaulting them. The rape of black women was simply no crime at all."
Yes, and that's going to be a stain on our history. However, you're stating that video games are now perpetuating that this is going to happen again because of video games. Are you out of your fucking mind, Anita?
Obviously, the problem here is not with the idea of representing women who come from tribal cultures. Our media absolutely should reflect the cultural diversity of the world we live in.
Then why did you make this video?
But that's not what characters like these do, at all. These are not respectful, well-researched representations of actual cultures.
To you, Anita! To you! Apparently, when there are tribes that have body paint and go around literally half naked or naked, should not be applied to video games!
Anita, I've seen your videos. You're not one to talk about poor research. Second, I've seen you talk about games you like, and honestly, they have the same problems as the games you don't like. The only difference between the games you like and don't like is exactly that. The only games you give a pass are the games you like. That's it.
Rather, they represent a form of cultural appropriation, when a dominant culture exploits and often profits from the history, culture, or traditions of a marginalized group. Like a white person putting on a sombrero and a fake mustache, grabbing a bottle of tequila and saying they're going as a Mexican for Halloween.
Go fuck yourself, Anita! Cultural appropriation is bullshit! Do you understand that? It is bullshit! By trying to separate us from our cultures, you are diverting and therefore limiting understanding. You are the problem here, Anita, not us!
Oh no, there's an Asian man dressed up as a cowboy. Oh no, there's a black man dressed up as a Viking. Remember when a whole bunch of American SJWs were complaining about Ghost in the Shell and how the main character was being played by a white person? But then they interviewed actual Japanese people and guess what? They didn't give a shit.
These offensive and embarrassing depictions reduce rich cultures down to a few stereotypical signifiers.
Those are just costumes. They don't really think ill of them, okay? Now, if they had blackface on, that would be a totally different thing. They would know better, okay? They know better.
Mystical powers, skimpy, tattered clothing, body paint, and racialized hypersexualization are used as shorthand for exotic.
They have no mystical powers. Until they start spewing fire from their hands, maybe so. And body paint? That is tribal. That is part of culture. War paint, body paint. It's supposed to be there. And skimpy clothes? Have you seen African tribal clothing? Some of them don't even have any tops. In fact, this is more covering than the ones in real life.
Anita, do you want these people to be in jeans and a t-shirt? I know there are many people in Africa who do wear that, but it's kind of bland. Yeah, many Americans also wear jeans and a t-shirt. But people don't want to see that in a video game. They want to see a cowboy or an American soldier, or at least something that has to do with American culture.
As a result, these signifiers reinforce extremely false and damaging stereotypes about the people and cultures that they're appropriating.
Black people are appropriating their own culture.
These false, harmful myths and stereotypes continue to contribute to the marginalization and oppression of women of color in America today.
Please tell me how a video game does that, Anita.
So many people think that fiction has a huge impact on reality. And while it does have somewhat of an impact, reality has a much, much greater impact on fiction. I'm really sick and tired of people saying, "Oh no, you can shoot people in this video game. That will make school shooters in real life." I'm going to come to the conclusion that school shooters didn't exist until video games.
For instance, in her book, The Politics of Disgust, feminist theorist Anne-Marie Hancock
She said cock.
discusses how racial stereotypes about black women contribute to a political system in which the marginalized continue to be underserved, oppressed, and unheard.
If you do not listen to her, your event will be shut down right now.
All right, so we are trying to be reasonable. We are trying to be reasonable. We are trying to be reasonable.
We are reasonable.
We are trying. We're gonna give you. We're gonna let you on the mic. We are gonna give you the mic. We will after Senator Sanders. After Senator Sanders. After Senator Sanders. After Senator Sanders. After Senator Sanders.
Do not tell me what to do.
After Senator Sanders.
Sit down.
After Senator Sanders.
Sit down.
Okay. All right.
Let her speak.
All right.
Let her speak.
All right. We're shutting it down.
We very rarely see portrayals of women of color in games that incorporate the cultural history of those characters in honest, respectful ways.
What culture does Alice have? You can change her race to anything and it would fit. Tell me, what culture is Alice from? Oh my god, I just realized something. You do want them in jeans and a t-shirt.
In many ways, Alex Vance from Half-Life 2 and its follow-up episodes is a great character, and it's good to see a non-sexualized woman of color in such a prominent role.
You're acting like she's the only one. Why are you acting like she is the only one? Please tell me, why are you acting like she's the only one?
But the game isn't concerned with her cultural background.
Because gamers don't give two shits about someone's racial background. We care about story, plot, and gameplay.
And lore. But if you were in charge of that, you would just have all the races in Skyrim wear jeans and a t-shirt.
Nilin, the biracial protagonist of Remember Me, is a sexualized female protagonist, but the sexualization doesn't employ racist tropes. Like Alex, her cultural background is treated as irrelevant.
Anita, why are you bringing race into this? No one cares about your fake diversity. No one cares of her being half black, half white. No one cares. And apparently, since you did not find a real problem in it, she is too sexy now.
Unfortunately, there aren't many positive examples of women of color in games whose cultural history isn't erased, but also isn't presented as the stuff of racist stereotypes.
I could sit here and give you an entire list right now. But every gamer already knows you're full of shit, and every gamer knows they can point one out. However, you'll say that they're appropriating culture and it's misrepresenting out of your ass because you're full of shit.
And that's a shame, because characters whose cultural background is incorporated honestly and respectfully can work to challenge the deeply racist status quo.
To you, Anita. However, you'll keep finding problems and you'll keep making these videos every 2 years. So basically, the only solution that we're going to have is to get rid of females and any other race other than white out of video games. And even then you'll bitch about it. You'll find something to bitch about it. You will find something to bitch about it because you're not happy. You'll never be happy until it cows down and cater to your every whim. You will be not happy until it's in your clutches.
And even then you'll find something to complain about. If you made a game yourself and found it later, you would say, "Oh my god, this game got corrupted by the internalized misogyny I had back then."
We're at least seeing some improvement where black male protagonists are concerned. Though they're far from perfect in terms of representation, 2016's Watch Dogs 2 and Mafia 3 center black male characters and acknowledge black identity and structural racism as aspects of their characters' lives.
You do not give two shits about them, okay, because they're men. And yeah, Mafia 3, there's no such thing as black gang violence, and there's no black gang members. No, that's not real.
Black on black crime just doesn't exist.
Mafia 3 does feature a supporting character named Cassandra, a woman of Haitian heritage whose background is very important to her character. Cassandra fights the entrenched Italian mafia and their racist brutality against the poor black citizens of the game's fictional southern city.
Because back in their time, there was a lot of racism, not like today, but there was so much more back then. And I don't care about her cultural background.
The game 1979 Revolution doesn't center a woman as its protagonist, but in telling the story of the Iranian Revolution, it illustrates how games can introduce players to new cultural perspectives in ways that are respectful and compelling, and that work to counteract stereotypes rather than to reinforce them.
We are a nation of equality greater than Western capitalism. We are a nation of equality greater than Western capitalism. Greater than Western capitalism.
So respectfully representing their culture is making them look like complete delusional idiots?
Oh yeah, I can see why you like this game.
One game with a female protagonist that does an excellent job of incorporating a character's cultural history and traditions is Never Alone, which stars a young girl named Nunya, a member of the Inupiat people of Alaska. Folklore and traditions of the Inupiat are incorporated throughout the game in a respectful way that enriches the player's understanding of these people and their experiences.
Because the game is based on their culture, not rather like a fantasy fighting game or a fantasy. You're not going to see an Eskimo in short shorts and an overcoat. Seriously, Anita, stop it. We already have tons of games like this. Yet you're stating like we don't have any of them. Because look, we'll call out a game for being racist and having racial stereotypes, okay?
Sonny, who took care of the plants and the animals.
What? And was also a very racist depiction of a black person. This game was approved by Sony with that in it? Nice call, guys. Really good one. Also, maybe, next time don't take too much fashion advice from Uncle Sam and the Harlem Globetrotters.
This kind of respectful treatment of cultural history and traditions should be the norm.
You're right, Anita. It should be. And it is.
But instead, games more often just plunder marginalized cultures with no sense of respect and no concern whatsoever about accurately reflecting the people and traditions they're appropriating from.
You know why that's not going to happen? Because it's not going to be fun. If they can't step on anyone's toes or do anything, they won't do it. In fact, they'll probably just get rid of it. So it will just be only white men and maybe white women. No more black people, no more any other racial minorities in video games. There, you happy, Anita?
To put it simply, it's not okay for games to reduce these cultures to stereotypical costumes and personality traits in an effort to add a bit of exotic flair to their worlds.
Anita, outside of your hug box, who is really offended by this? Are there a whole bunch of different cultures sending the game developers angry letters? And is it your place as a rich white person to get offended on their behalf? To everybody who's watching this video, comment down below if any of these video game depictions offend you. Well, aside from the obvious one.
It should not be too much to ask for and expect representations of people of color whose cultural backgrounds are acknowledged and woven into their characters in ways that are thoughtful, validating, and humanizing.
And I'm going to tell you, no one cares. Hell, you'll find black people cosplaying these very characters that you're saying is very harmful towards the black community. So degrading. Because you're not the authority here. We are. So, how about you get the fuck out, please? And take that almost $1 million worth of funding with you. You know, the one you've stolen from your backers, and you're not going to refund them, and Kickstarter's probably not going to tell you to refund them. And now your nonprofit organization's funding is going towards political, which is against the law. You know what's also amazing? You haven't brought up a Horizon Dawn Zero. You know, for cultural appropriation, the dreadlocks, the tribal paint, looking like a native tribe. I can't believe you didn't say anything about that. You're getting off the ball. And I'm going to play that game because it's interesting. Not because it has a female protagonist or whatever bullshit you're going to come up with on your next review. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Thank you, Jar, for coming over.
No problem, Autonomous.
I'm just gonna go ice my head for a moment. It's giving me a really bad headache.
Where did he go? Did he just teleport? Why couldn't he just teleport me to him instead of making me walk all this way on my brand new legs? Speaking of which, a big thank you to Christina Prime for all the new artwork. She has so far done all the artwork for me on this channel, and if you want to see more from her, link to her YouTube and DeviantArt will be down below. My eyes have seen the glory of the cleansing of YouTube. Debunking SJWs and feminazis too. We criticize reactionists in hopes they get the boot. Just to roll on marches on